What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
We're doing a review today that doesn't align with our normal movie review schedule where we keep it on the podcast. This one's going to be something we wanted to talk about, considering Andor has come out this week. We're talking about Rogue One. Marvin over here, in preparation for Andor, consumed all the Star Wars stuff. Not all of it, but the trilogy, original trilogy, the trilogy. And he watched Rogue One, all in preparation for Andor. So we thought it would be fun and relevant to see what he thought about it and what the rest of us thought about it. It had been a couple years since I had seen it, so I decided to watch it again the other night. But Rogue One, a Star Wars story directed by Gareth Edwards, written by Tony Gilroy, who also is writing Andor. You know, I forgot to mention it when we talked about those first 3 episodes. Dusty, you brought it up last week on our podcast, but Tony Gilroy is on record saying, like, yo, I don't give a fuck about Star Wars. Like, I do not care about the lore. I don't give a fuck. I just know how to write a good story about these characters. And so far, he's kept his promise in Andor, I think. And he did something similar in Rogue One. So Rogue One stars Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso, Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, Donnie Yen, the fucking man, as I don't even know how to say his name, Chirrut, Wen Jiang as Baze, I think is how they say it. We got Forrest Whitaker, Mads Mikkelsen as Jyn's father, Galen, Riz Ahmed as a disgraced Imperial fighter pilot, Vadi, Jimmy Smits, Bail Organa. That's Leia's father. And we got Ben Mendelsohn as Orson Krennic. He's an Imperial officer, and he's in charge of, I guess, like the science division or something. Leading, like he's part of like the weapons development,
kind of like research and development or something. Yeah, but like the aggressive recruiting kind, I guess.
Yeah, and he's got our boy Galen, who's a brilliant weapons scientist, or just scientist in general, and he's got him basically kept as a slave to help them build the ultimate weapon, which is the big, giant, planet-killing laser that's on the Death Star. We talked about this a lot, talking about Andor, and I've mentioned this before when talking about this movie, but this movie was a big departure from the rest of the Star Wars series in that it's a much more grittier tone, much more grounded type of story. It feels like it is a war movie, really. Like there's moments when they're storming beaches and you're in gunfights and all this stuff.
Right.
But this is a story that takes place within the early stages, I guess you would say, of the Rebel Alliance. The Rebel Alliance has been put together by Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and a few other senators who realize, like, yo, this empire is no good. They're kind of just doing their thing, but they're actually, we see in this movie that they are kind of questionable in their actions, right? They're out there fucking assassinating people, putting hits on people. They're doing, I don't even know what you would call it. They're like an insurgents, sort of, like in Iraq or whatever. They're like bombing fucking Imperial bases and ships and trade routes and stuff like that. So it's very much like they are like, I mean, people who are like Imperial sympathizers and people who are within the Empire is like part of the Imperial forces. These people, like the rebellion is, they're pretty much terrorists. And you never actually get that point of view in Star Wars ever before, because in Star Wars, you're thrown into the Rebel Alliance. You're like, oh shit. Right. Like you're introduced to the story of like evil Empire, Rebel Alliance trying to take them down. That's it. But there's never the question of like, well, how does the other side see it? Because, you know, again, we talked about this talking about Andor so far, is that you are seeing that there are other parts of the Empire that aren't about fascism and like totalitarianism and all this stuff. They're just like, oh, well, like we don't know any better. So like, yeah, it seems like the Empire's doing good. It's like what my dad says, all I know is I was doing much better under Trump. So it's like that kind of thing, right? So it's just, it's a cool, interesting sort of new lens to put over the whole thing. Jyn Erso, she gets a message from her father, Galen, who says, hey, listen, I put a weakness into the Death Star. and you got to get this layout to the Rebel Alliance. They'll know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's pretty much the story. It's the story of a ragtag group of people who take it upon themselves against the rebellion's orders, no less.
Super important part, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. To go to a planet where conveniently all of the most important Imperial documents are kept in a single building.
One building with
and
a perfect antenna just to transmit the data out.
And they steal the plans. And the movie ends literally moments.
You got to put the database somewhere.
That's true.
Guys.
You do, yeah.
True.
They don't have cloud technology
in a central location.
I mean, even if you have cloud, you still have to put the database somewhere.
But in a vast universe, Dusty, if you were the emperor, wouldn't you scatter this important information like throughout the galaxy, maybe in different bases?
That would be a good idea, but you would still want a centralized backup somewhere.
That's true.
You know,
Dusty's an IT guy, so he's the authority on the matter. So I don't.
Well,
he's right.
I was gonna say, we watched Andor, the show, obviously, right?
Yep.
He said an interesting thing where he was like, because he was able to sneak in and steal that box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said something along the lines of,
you just pretend
they don't pay attention. You know, they don't really pay attention. They're
us
so
lesser
comfortable
folks.
with their power. You know,
hubris.
So this kind of goes back to that. Like, I mean, why would they're not really too worried about people doing these types of things because they think they have all the power in the galaxy. So I think this movie was pretty good all around. I'm obviously new to Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
So I was fresh off the trilogy and then watched Rogue One.
Obviously.
It didn't feel like that big of a what's the word you use?
Leap.
Like it didn't feel that different for me as far as like the world of Star Wars. It felt like Star Wars.
It wasn't. It was very Star Wars.
Yeah, visually they did a really great job of one of the things I remember being. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I can say after.
I was just gonna say one of the things that I remember being the most impressed about with Rogue One when I first watched it in theaters when it came out was the fact that they took such a such care and paid attention to such detail of recreating the instruments, like in the ships and stuff, like the little fucking digitized screens and just which was all cheesy graphics from the 70s, but they recreated it in a way that like made it really feel actually real, but you know, it wasn't a departure from the original stuff. So that was cool.
It was insane. I said this to you guys after I watched the trilogy and watched Rogue One. Going from the visuals of the trilogy, the original trilogy, to the visuals of Rogue One was like fucking mind blowing.
Right.
And it's like weird it's almost weird to wrap your head around it
like
taking place before.
Jump.
Especially in your case, because one of your big aversions to watching it was the fact that it looked very cheesy. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine recently. We were just talking about Star Wars stuff in general, and he was like, hey, sorry, not sorry, but like A New Hope doesn't hold up that well. But I don't know. I still think it does. It has like a charm to it that it's like a DIY sort of like old school feel to it. But I mean, I like that sort of stuff. I would argue that the prequel trilogy has worse CGI. Well, keep in mind, like the prequels use CGI. CGI wasn't a thing in the 70s. It was
the original trilogy.
It was like fucking rotoscoping and doing all sorts of like overlays and camera tricks.
I had to look into
special
that
effects,
to see
CGI.
how the fuck they did this.
Yeah.
Because my mind couldn't
What'd you find?
think of how they did this without a fucking computer or,
well, keep in mind the ships were probably miniatures and stuff.
Yeah,
right.
This is why
I still
80s movies
can't really
were so
grasp
good
it.
because they had basically peaked at special effects in the 80s, and then you started getting into computer graphics, and that's where it kind of got like 90s movies. Some of them were kind of weird, because they try to do too much.
With
but then you start getting into the 2000s, and they're making it work really well.
And
obviously, where we're at today,
one of the big
One
of the big criticisms of the prequels, and one of the reasons I am not a huge fan. I mean, the stories are decent, whatever. That's besides the point. But visually, I think those movies are ass, and they hold up worse than the than the original trilogy, because the original trilogy, as we were just saying, is actual like DIY, VFX, miniatures, all sorts of stuff and techniques put together. The prequel trilogy is like OD CGI. It's like George Lucas was like, oh shit, there's this new technique we could use. I want everything to be like, literally there are like everything in those movies is CGI, everything. And it looks so fucking bad now going back and watching it. And it looked bad then. You know, the fate of these people is probably not going to turn out good.
Yeah.
Right.
And
but you're still very interested.
And other times and other media, and well, Star Wars media for that matter, because this was my big criticism about Obi-Wan. I didn't feel Obi-Wan had any real weight to it because there was no stakes, because you know the fate of all these people is not ending in Obi-Wan. So maybe
you know the fate of everybody except for the bad guys, and which you really don't care.
The throwaway bad guys.
They're bad guys.
Right. So maybe in Rogue One, what made that different is that, like, even though you know their fate, it's still like they're not going to appear anywhere else. You know this is the end for them. So I don't know. I remember watching it in theaters, like that whole end, like that final act, like where everybody's dropping like flies and they realize like, well, we're not getting off this fucking planet, and the Death Star's closing in, and Moff Tarkin's a fucking lunatic. Like, there's just a lot of weight to it, because you're like, oh shit, like they're gonna fucking die for this, like they're gonna die for the cause. And
the fact that they were like fucking like just freestyling a lot of the shit. She's like, we're gonna take a chance, and we're gonna take another chance until there's no more chances, I guess.
Yep. And everybody
and it somehow worked out.
Everybody talks about, Luke being the hero, and Leia, and fucking Chewbacca, and Han, and all the people we know and love, right?
Yeah.
What about these fucking people?
Right.
The rebellion literally lived or died on their shoulders. If they don't get these plans off this planet, that's it. It's over.
That's it. Death Star is fucking, ooh, yeah, I'm the Death Star.
Death Star's completed. Death Star's fucking blowing up planets left and right. And fucking, use the Force, Luke. Luke uses the Force.
All the people
doesn't know
in
what the fuck to do with
squadron, and the rogue squadrons that died.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I don't know. I think I personally feel that Rogue One, while it is a departure, like visually and thematically and tonally from the rest of Star Wars, and a lot of people don't really like that much, I think it makes it, for me, my favorite Star Wars movie out of all of them. And I love Star Wars, and I love the original trilogy, but nostalgia aside, and like, this is, I think, it's my favorite one. It's like, it's such an important movie in the series too. So
it's very important in the series. Yeah. It's a good movie. I mean, there's a couple of weird plot devices at the end where, like, they're, hey, you got to break into the tower, you got to get the data, you got to get it out of there, you got to get off of it. Like, a couple of things you're like, well, that was a little convenient on how that all worked out. But overall, yeah, like the action, like getting in there, like, the back and forth. Yeah, I enjoyed Rogue One as a movie very much.
I enjoyed it too. I thought it was cool how they came up with the name of their unit, I guess.
I got a little misty-eyed when that happened when I watched it the other night. This movie did fan service right. Okay. You got your fucking some scenes with the fucking AT-ATs on the beach, which was fucking dope.
Yep.
But Force Awakens, and you'll see eventually, Marvin, that movie's very much like, hey, you remember Chewie? Hey, remember Luke? Hey, remember Leia? Who's that over there? Oh shit, it's R2. Get your ass over here. It's just, that's what that movie is. Right. Where Rogue One has like, we're going to show you this really cool thing that you haven't seen before in this particular way. And that's that. And they do it in the best fucking way possible. And they give us Darth Vader at the end of this fucking movie being a Darth Vader that we've never seen before. This motherfucker comes in like Michael Myers.
I swear I was hearing fucking all the horror sounds, fucking Jaws.
How good was that scene, Marvin? After 3 movies of seeing Vader in like the worst.
Just fucking chilling, like choking the guy a little bit here, but seeing him doing that.
Oh my God, so good. He's like, and
with speed.
He's just fucking force choking, pulling guns away, tossing people,
comboing motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was so good.
And then the movie just fucking ends, and you're like, wow, what a way to end a movie. That's how you do fan service, writers and directors out there.
I was like, no way. It's like, because you know that they get away, but it's like, oh my god, do they get away?
Now you probably, I mean, obviously you I'm sure you realized because you watched them nearly back to back, but you got that was Leia's ship that took off when he was just standing there, like,
yes,
okay,
menacing look, yeah,
yeah, and then literally the movie opens, Star Wars, with him boarding the ship, and he's like,
right.
You are a member of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. So good that they put it like that way. The fact that they ended it like literally seconds before the beginning of that was
fucking nuts.
So good, so good, and like that's what I'm saying. The attention to detail that they took in this movie, like recreating Leia's fucking starship, and like just the details and like the walls and like the fucking outfits that the people were wearing as they're just these minions running around getting butchered.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Imagine it was a funny little scene. That was like I'm pretty sure it was a callback to when Han lured the troops into the ship so he could steal their costumes.
Yeah, when they get on the Death
they
Star.
do the same thing. They do the same thing when they first land onto the planet. The guy, he's like, yeah, the manifest is right down here, and then they come in and then they take their outfits.
But yeah, man, that obviously that got the nerd boners going.
Yeah.
Rogue One, I guess it's my favorite Star Wars movie. I don't give a fuck.
It's really good.
Yeah. And it's on IMDb at a 7.8, which is very high by IMDb standards. So I'm rounding up. I'm giving this shit an 8.
I would probably round up too, to be honest.
Dusty, you're the purist here.
Like,
what do you think?
7.5.
7.5. Okay,
hey, we'll take
not
it.
an 8, but 7.5.
That's still high.
It's good. It's just a very good Star Wars movie. It does everything Dan says it does. It gives you a little bit of Star Wars, but it also gives you a little bit of gritty, like un-Star Wars stuff. So it's, I don't know, like Dan is big on this Andor. It might be his favorite thing since Luke showed up in the other show he was talking about. I think Ahsoka, I hope, is the greatest.
If they do it right, yeah.
The greatest series they put together. If they do it right, it should be. Because
if they follow the same
story,
trends,
you guys haven't been down the rabbit hole. You haven't seen Rebels. You haven't seen Clone Wars. You're not down this rabbit hole of her character. Like, I'm looking forward to it, and I like.
Like I said in the,
I hope they do it justice.
Like I said in the Andor video, like you want to talk about rabbit holes? Like there's deep lore in the fucking Battlefront games that fucking shitty EA made.
Yeah,
it's like it's wild.
I remember the first I had a PS2 when I first moved to California, I think, and I got my apartment. I had a.
I'm talking about the new Battlefront games, the shooters.
Oh, I'm talking about the old.
No,
ones,
I know what you're talking about. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I don't need to go into that. I'll tell you about it offline. Fun times, but yeah. Battlefront. I don't know. We'll see though. But Ahsoka. That's the real story that I'm looking for. Like that's cool. As far as like everything that they're laying out, Ahsoka. That's what I want to see because her story.
Well,
like it's tied to Luke.
Yeah.
It's tied to Anakin. It's tied to both now. So they could take her and like she walked away. Like no.
I think we're
no
opposites.
Spoilers.
I think we're opposites to where you still really like the ties to the Skywalkers, and I'm sort of sitting here like, all right, like enough.
But I don't even care. Like,
I'm not arguing that Ahsoka's
I just
want
to
see
Ahsoka.
I agree.
I want to see Ahsoka. I don't care. Like if they could do like 6 seasons of Ahsoka of her like after something happened. And we see like before she shows up in the show Mandalorian.
Sure.
That's the first show she showed up in.
Yes.
Like everything in between that. Like,
well, I think
I would watch that. I would watch that and love that.
I'm pretty sure that's what the show's going to be, is her prior to showing up in Mandalorian.
Right. So yeah, that's
because right now, as we know, she's sort of acting amazing. As like Luke's.
I mean,
partner.
Ezra showing back up is going to be fun. However that happens, you guys still don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna start watching Clone Wars after I finish knocking
how
out the
they
trilogies.
introduce the whales. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Still something you guys don't know what I'm talking about.
No
But
idea.
people in the comments probably know. So that's kind of the stuff I'm like, how are they going to do this?
Right.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
There is a lot of good stuff to look forward to. It's all very exciting if you're a nerd, and a Star Wars nerd in particular. I just don't give me any more Obi-Wan shit, because that show was not feeling it.
It was, yeah.
But let us know in the comments below what you thought of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Do you like the departure from typical Star Wars stuff, or would you rather see just all Skywalker shit all the time?
All the time.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.